Welcome, Tweener heads. Welcome back to another special edition here for our YouTube channel. Today we have the famous Greg Shapiro from Under Review Tennis Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Philip.
Greg has done a little bit of everything. He talks to the most interesting voices in tennis. He was Andre Agassi's stringer. He's been around the world. So thank you again for joining us today.
My pleasure, man. This is unique times.
It really is. And I think for us, it's challenging. It really pushes us to the limits of what we can do with our content, and especially for you with the podcast. Definitely provides some challenges, but also some opportunities as well.
Yeah, I haven't stopped a beat, man. I just keep it. My show is 100% interview-based show, and I don't necessarily sit down on a current event on in my show. So, we definitely talk about, what's happening in tennis at the moment. I don't make that crush my whole show. So it hasn't stopped. I just keep going.
I love it. And I think to start off this, we have to talk about your background, because with the podcast, with the traveling, how did you get into this life of podcasting and tennis media per se?
Well, so first of all, I grew up in Rhode Island. I had a dad. He was sort of progressive in his sports. In his sports watching and supporting so he basically saw Arthur Ashe and Jimmy Connors and Bjorn Borg, and we're like, whoa, I'm in on this. So my dad, he ran to the U.S. Open from Rhode Island.
Oh, wow.
A weekend. Like, he'd pack buses.
I love that.
Yeah, it was great. So I grew up going to the U.S. Open. I grew up playing. I was a ball kid at the Hall of Fame.
Oh.
And my dad was like all about. Yeah, in fact, I think my first real paid job.
Yeah.
Like maybe shoveling driveways, was like cleaning up the freaking garbage under bleachers at the Hall of Fame during the tournament.
Wow.
Every year. Yeah. So, and back then, it was pretty loosey-goosey, so my dad knew Collins.
Yeah.
And my dad would play in the media tournament that Bud would hold.
Wow.
I can remember, being at Longwood in Boston, and my dad just, walking us right into, the locker room and saying hello to Guillermo and all sorts of shit. Because of my dad, I had this interesting sort of knowledge of tennis, man. Yeah. And when I finished college, I got a job teaching tennis in New York City and at the New York Health and Rec Club at Wall Street. There are these two bubbles that went to the East River.
Yeah.
Had 4 courts in them. So I worked there. And one day, I answered an ad that came across the fact that this business, Jay's Custom Stringing, right?
Okay.
Show you. So, back in the day, this cat Jay, you'd see these bags on tour.
Oh, wow.
Cat Jay basically was this madman who had sort of figured out that all the rackets were different and the pros need rackets customized. Basically had figured out this sort of vacuum in pro tennis. He started customizing and stringing rackets for those, and it's probably a longer story. Agassi had rackets at some point.
Okay.
Jay worked it out.
Okay.
And from that moment, Jay got a deal done with Andre, or with Perry, who
Okay.
was his age his best friend at the time too, that somebody would travel with Andre everywhere he went and string his rackets and grip the rackets, all this other stuff. So, and at that time as well, everybody copied Andre on tour. So the guy's business went from, maybe 10 guys. It went from they had 60 players that were getting their rackets customized, and then they provided stringing at the big tournaments for clients.
Wow.
So I think from I don't know when I took but I think from 1996 to Cincinnati 1998, August 98, I worked there.
Okay.
Because I have programs 1996 French Open.
Ooh.
So I think French Open,
yeah,
7 French Open, maybe the 98 French Open with that program. And then from there, I hated it at some point, and a friend of mine got me a job at HBO.
Okay.
I worked, and that's what I am. Basically, or the job working.
Okay.
I direct mostly not in sports content.
Okay, gotcha.
I describe myself as a documentary filmmaker.
Yeah.
With heavy sport. And then just to finish, about 20 months ago, at Einstein's suggestion, we started the podcast, and that really that was sort of symptomatic of the fact that I really had not to find a lane where I could tell the story I wanted to tell in tennis.
Okay.
I did some stuff for the Tennis Channel over the years. I never really quite found a great over there, and I never found a great lane in live. I hate being in TV.
Yeah.
With heart and soul, yeah.
There's people for that. I mean, if you want more nitty-gritty kind of in detail and in-depth stuff, kind of stay away from that segment, right?
No, I wouldn't say that. Just a different skill.
Okay.
Live sports production, it's a different group.
Gotcha.
To be in a TV truck is a different thing, man.
I can imagine. You're just cooped up in there, and there's so much going on.
To be in a TV truck is it's a different group, man, and I don't really gravitate to that, and I think for the most part, people I don't really like them, and
No, it's fair. No, it's fair, and it's not for everyone. And you found your niche pretty quickly, and I wanted to ask you how you decided to interview interesting voices within tennis. What was your stance when you first developed it?
No, I never thought it. I never thought it could be anything else.
Okay.
I would never with a buddy sit around and share my opinions the way others do about and what they think and who. That's not what I would do. But when I make my documentaries and stuff, I sit and I interview people, right?
Yeah.
And I always thought I was doing really good interviews, and I sort of this underrated interviewer. I thought I was doing great interviews, and people would be like, "Well, this show's great." And I'm like, "Yeah, but the interviews are what's great," and nobody was like, "Oh, great interviews." So now with the podcast, they're like, "Oh, the guy does great interviews."
Yeah. Because it's the key segment that they're focusing on rather than the images that come with it.
Hear me asking the questions, and in a documentary, you don't hear me asking the questions.
They're not focused on it.
Well, they don't hear it. You don't hear my voice, right? I'm behind the camera.
Oh yeah. You just hear
now,
the answers.
People hear me. Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving. He knows what he's doing. He's, so for me, it sort of scratched a lot of itches, pushed a lot of
buttons.
Points.
Yeah.
In my mind, like, oh, this is great. Yeah.
Awesome. How would you? I wanted to talk to you about the Andre saga that you had with him. So how long did you work with him, or how long were you stringing for him?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's important that I don't purport to be like an Andre expert, Andre friend and confidant. I think from like Washington, D.C. in 1997, I think I did like a short amount of time with him.
Okay.
In general. Because
Gotcha.
I never last stop. But, no, man, I mean, listen, we met and we were about to sing. And so it was me, Andre, Brad.
Yeah.
A guy named Joe Giuliano that was out of there, and there was a physio named Walt. Man.
Yeah.
My greatest moments that happened, like, for me, where we were just, was Australia 98.
Yeah.
We played Adelaide, and Andre lost Leighton Hewitt. And Leighton became the player to ever win a pro.
Wow.
Then we played Kuyang, which is an ex. And then Andre, when we played Australian Open, Andre lost to, I think, Albert Costa. But at that time, then we were set up for all the clients.
Yeah.
And I of stringing Peter Porter's rackets.
Really?
Through, I think, second week. I picked him up in the second week.
Nice.
There was another guy there that had a week, and then he went back home. And I'm actually in Peter's box for the final.
I'm gonna see if I can find that on YouTube and send it to you.
Rios, he climbs into the crowd.
Yeah.
You could actually see me.
I'm gonna find that. I'm gonna find that. How would you describe traveling for media?
The other big thing we did, we played Monte Carlo and then the French Open. I don't think I came home. I think Munich.
Okay.
But in Carlo, I lost to Pete.
Okay.
And he was pissed. And Brad said, oh man, he's like, remember, Andre was so
really?
Because he was so angry because he could lose to Pete on red clay. He beat. But yeah, it was a short moment in time. Somehow one of his ended up. I don't know how it ended up back with me, but
that's cool.
I have one. The moment.
I love that.
Yeah, it's cool. The other thing I have is when we were in Adelaide, they wrote an article about a lean team Agassi, and it's up in my kitchen. It's like the only proof I have. Some of the credentials say like Coach Agassi.
Oh, I love that. Those are the best.
Yeah.
How would you describe traveling now that you're in kind of the media sphere? How would you describe traveling with someone, with a pro player, versus traveling to a tournament now for the podcast?
No, it's not. It's not apples to apples.
That's what I thought.
Interesting. That's the thing too. That's sort of interesting is that a media credential.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's great, but it's once you have the media credential on.
Yeah.
You're obligated to play by the media department's rules, and that really means you can't approach anyone of any significance without their. That means players.
Coaches.
That means. Yeah, you listen. Coaches are a little different. Where depending on the vibe, you can and also ex-players that are broadcasters. But for example, I was in Australia the second week this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw Justine Henin talking with someone.
Okay.
And I chose to introduce myself because, to be honest, I kind of didn't know who the other person was.
Okay.
Talking, and I didn't want to run of that person being, who I introduced myself in the TV trucks and blah blah blah, and so there's that. I mean, to me, the greatest credential you can get is a player guest badge, because once you're a player guest badge, you have access to the players lounge and to sort of those.
You won't.
But I would never go up to somebody during a tournament. I don't know. I have certain rules of engagement that
you follow.
Yeah, I don't fuck with the players at tournaments or anything, and I, generally speaking, have tried to do it all by the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, the other thing for me is that a media credential gets me on site, and for me to be on site, I can make a lot of things happen with events, with tournament, with the big tournaments in general are like business. So I get out there and I make a lot of good stuff happen, and quite often I run into people that I just had Greg Ruzetsky on.
Yeah.
Guess what? I ran into him at the U.S. Open. We talked, and then I saw him at Indian Wells. We got on the microphone. Great. I did introduce myself to Yanko Tipsarevic at Indian Wells because he seems like a real cool guy, and we're gonna talk. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a real thing. But here's a good example. Like U.S. Open, I went out to dinner with Novak, and I went downstairs, and sure enough, Wawrinka at a different dinner with some people that I knew a little bit. So I introduced myself to Stan, but then I was at Indian Wells. Stan was practicing with Ogier Aliassime.
Yeah.
The only person in there. And I didn't say a word to Stan, for example, because I don't want him to be like, he's at dinner, and then he's, so I just kind of keep it.
Okay.
It's a skill thing.
For me, it was hard making the difference or correlation between maybe being a friend of the players and having a media credential at the same time, because there seems to be, at least for me, my line is blurred. And I think I still can't wrap my head around the idea of being both separately rather than doing both.
Yeah, the thing about the media center and the media credential is that, like, the media that is working for newspapers and for, like, radio and for different periodicals, they have, like, a very specific way they work and how they help. So for people like myself, and it sounds like you, you gotta kind of lay low, because those people have like a real rhythm to how they're working. They're watching the matches on video, desks, headphones on, press conference, then they're going to like press happy hours, and I don't need to be doing any of that.
Yeah.
I need to be like pushing my social media, interviews, trying to conduct interviews, and that's it. I don't. That's all I'm trying to do. It's a little different.
No, I agree. I agree.
Need to be, asking a question or even.
So yeah, I think jumping back into that conversation with the media, there's the traditional media, which is, like you said, the newspapers and the press that have a structure to how they do it. But for people like us that may have a different angle or are trying to go a different way about it, there's a lot more to it that we have to do behind the scenes, or not even recording or posting on social media, because of that's not how we function.
Well, I don't purport to be busier than those people. I think those people are way busier than me.
Yeah.
Way. Yeah, for sure. Yes, I can. I can do up to interviews a day.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, is the most. There's more than that. It's sort of exhausting. But those people that are getting, paid in full to be writing for the Herald Tribune and the Standard and covering, Dan Evans and then, Dan Evans and then, Jamie Murray's doubles match, and then those people are really grinding. And it's not just the newspapers, right? It's the newspapers, like the radio, TV people, some like bloggers, and those people on top of it are like live tweeting match, all sorts of shit all day long. And
yeah.
I just want to do my, which is just that straight up and down interview show with the people that are the most interesting.
Yeah. So let's move towards your podcast format, because I think you have a very interesting format. You have a 5-set format for your podcast. How did you come up with that, or what was the research with that?
When we started like looking into this podcast game, I was at a job at the NFL, in the creative NFL, and there was a guy I worked with who I didn't know that much about him. I started asking about him, and they said he's got a hockey podcast. That's kind of a big deal.
Okay.
Guy, his name's Doug. He has a podcast along with another called the Puck Podcast.
Okay.
And they do a 3-period format.
Okay. So
I basically was like, oh shit, I'll do 5 sets, and I created a tennis channel called Best of 5.
Gotcha.
Where that was just an easy format. Like, this is the best 5 greatest meltdowns, or the best of 5. So I was like, okay, let's just do a 5-set format, and I conceptualized it very quickly. The only change that was ever made was first show we ever recorded. I recorded with Jeff Tarango.
Okay.
A friend of mine. And the 5th set was, first set is the off the court report.
Yeah.
Set is the on the court report, where the difference between the on the court generally speaking is off the court is like, Brad Gilbert, Scott, a tennis store, and
yeah, the BG Nation.
Brad Gilbert, what have you been doing? Exercise. He's like, well, I've been walking the example. And on the court is generally what's going on in tennis at the moment.
Gotcha.
Then the 3rd set is part of the show where I talk about players' career and their life in tennis. And that's kind of the
long segment of the podcast.
The 4th set is the 10-ball scramble, where we don't do a deep dive, we just do word association.
Gotcha.
And then the 5th set we call it the king or the queen of the court. You could make a change in the sport, what would it be? And we get a lot of different answers to that. But the first time I did the show, I did it with Jeff Tarango, and we did, instead of the king of the court, it was guess the prize money. And well, it was fun because I'd be like Peter Corda, and he'd be like, 19 million, and you'd see on the ATP's website, fair prize. So we kind of had a funny thing, but then I sort of realized that I couldn't do that with all my guests.
Yeah.
Right? Because not every guest would be able to play that.
Wouldn't know that.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to play that game. So that's the only thing that changed. Yeah, people love the format.
It's simple. It's very unique, and it's straightforward because they know what they're getting immediately as soon as they turn on your podcast.
Yeah, people love the format. People love the way the show kind of moves. And, that's been good.
I think my favorite one of yours was Sandgren's. His rule change was going back to wooden rackets because I never saw that coming. I was like, wait, why?
Sandgren's fifth set was great. Trey Walkie had a great idea that he thought that the height of the net actually adjust.
Really?
Because the sport now is so adjusted for a taller athlete.
Yeah.
That it could be like a way that the lines moved in or the net moved up. You got to hear it. I don't remember it exactly, but he had kind of an interesting one.
I'll listen to it.
Bianca Andreescu wanted you get to pick your walk pick.
That's nice. I like that one.
Yeah, you get a variety of different ones. A lot of them fall into the scheduling of stuff.
Yeah.
That's a little bit straight up and down, but by the time you get to that point in the show, it's cool. People are... It's
more relaxed.
Yeah, it's just like a good thing to try and such. Nicole Gibbs thought more violence and more equality throughout the sport. Different thoughts. Brad Gilbert, I've adjusted because I've had him on 4. So, Brad's a great friend of the show. I have to kind of change his questioning. So, one time I asked him about in college tennis because I started seeing all these videos of people cheating the fuck out of.
Oh yeah, college calls. They're so bad.
Calling them out and so we talked about that. And he thought, listen, man, if you get caught blatantly cheating like that, you should be thrown out. They need to stop that. So you should be. And I agree. I stunned about that sort of cheating.
Yeah.
But that's how we do it.
Yeah. And do you think you've had one interview that's surprised you the most, or is one that was unexpected when you did it, or the answers were not even what you thought of?
Steve Flink, the Hall of Fame writer, never had a different job in his whole life other than being a tennis writer.
How?
He never waited at the table. He only was a tennis writer.
How?
You gotta listen to the show, man. You gotta listen to the show. You're behind.
Of course I am.
Yeah.
What?
I'm trying to think. Caitlin Thompson from Racquet magazine.
Yeah.
She told us the story of she tested meldonium. She did a cycle of meldonium. That's a great episode. I knew that was coming because I asked her about it, but to hear her how that happened. That's a great story. Ashley Harkleroad, who got to, like 59 in the world, but she was a highly lauded junior.
Okay.
Her story is unbelievable, from, Stone, Georgia to posing for Playboy. You can't make that up.
I know.
And her agent, Jill Smoller, was Serena's agent. So at that time, it was after Serena melted down at the U.S. Open.
I had that.
Ashley's husband, Chuck Adams, was 30 in the world, and he is like a real close friend of John McEnroe, and he shared my show was an inside show, so
it's really an in-depth, and I like that.
Yeah, it's like an insider show, so we try to take the listener to a place that you can't go to on other shows.
I like that. I really do like that, and I think
Chuck rides bike McEnroe through the mountains of and the canyons, and then they practice, and no one's hearing about that anywhere else.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think for my last question for you is I recently listened to your interview with Lindsay Davenport, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about American tennis because there's two questions I want to ask. One,
before you ask, she has the best player in the country. Her kid, I didn't realize until after we talked, her kid, the last name is Leach. He's the best. He's like the best 14-year-old in the country.
I feel like I've heard that name before because I've been looking at college recruits.
Brother, Jonathan Leach, and the son is the best kid in the country. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Good side note. I think, one, I have to ask, where do you see American tennis going? And two, do you think Coco Gauff is overhyped or underhyped?
Listen, man, I love ball. Riley Opelka is incredible. I think that Chris Eubank could probably be a good player. On the women's side, the women,
it's a plethora.
Well, Venus and Serena are going to be finishing up soon.
Yeah.
And there's, Keys, Sloane, Katie McNally is a good player.
Yeah.
Goff is a good player. Coco Gauff already won a tournament. There's going to be a top. I think it's going to be top 30 of 2 years. Who a friend of mine worked with since she's 13. She's only 16. Her name's Katrina.
Okay.
She's on the low, turned pro, and they're just getting her ready to get on tour. She is the real man. She has a world-class backhand. She doesn't miss. She has a top 30 in the now.
Okay.
And got great volleys, and she's just trying to improve the forehand before she goes on court.
Oh, nice.
And and you asked me about Coco Gauff. I think her forehand has to improve.
Okay.
For her to really make money moves. I don't think her forehand. And by the way, man, I don't purport to be in sporting and stuff, but
I'm not asking for an expert opinion. I'm asking for your opinion, your personal opinion.
Other shows, and I'll say, I'm pretty certain her forehand breaks down really under pressure when she gets tired.
Okay.
But listen, man, ball don't lie, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Tournament, and she's won his and she seems very cool. I think Naomi Osaka, you know, part of me thinks that, you know, there are certain players that did stop down or is really going to hurt. Like, I don't, the stop down, you know, is tragic for so many reasons. I don't try to, like, pretend like it's more hurtful for someone else. I don't, caveat, it's not. People that's only job where they make any money is at the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
Is very,
very crucial.
Well, it's tragic that they're not. I think the tennis players are going to be all right, but you know, I think that this really hurts someone like Naomi Osaka, who had a really bad year and then started working with Wim Fissette and started Wim kind of talked her through that back end of Asia.
Yeah.
Where she won a tournament, and then, you know, they had like a bad result in Australia, but like I think that's really going to hurt her
confidence wise.
No, I just think in momentum wise.
Okay.
I heard Serena like unbelievable to miss a year of slams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really, and I think for Fed and for Venus, like to me, this was their sort of lap, like their victory lap, their goodbye. I did, yeah. I mean, I think Venus is probably going to play another year.
I think Fed has maybe 2 years, maybe. I think he might hit that 40 mark and call it quits, but you think he's done?
I don't know.
It's going to be a tough call.
And you play tennis from the time you're 16 till you're 30. That's
so long.
Yeah, it's a long time.
So long.
23 years.
Yeah, when you put it like that, I think it's very different because not many people understand what it's like to be not just a athlete for a team, but a singular athlete for yourself. Playing for over 20 years is a lifetime.
Yo, man, listen, I was stringing rackets and strung rackets for Venus and Serena wasn't even... I have a very distinct memory of Venus playing Australia in '98, man.
Jeez.
I was 24. I'm 48 now. And I ran to Venus in Australia. She was walking to probably an autograph signing or something, and I walked by, and it all hit me like, oh my God.
Like, it's still happening.
But she's been, for 24 years, she's been coming to Melbourne, Australia to play this tennis tournament.
The longevity is insane.
10 years. 16 to 26. McEnroe lasted 14 years, right? He was about 8 to 32.
Now you have guys that are lasting maybe...
29 years old he retired, I think. 16 to 29, right?
When did Roddick retire?
Yeah, Roddick, I think, is younger than Fed.
He still is, and he retired in, what, 2015?
I think I'm wrong about that, but I'm just saying, you know, to do what they've done. But I feel sad that, you know, I feel a little sad for, like, for the fans in a way that, like, maybe, you know, Venus is going to have to, like, if she's going to play, she was already losing a lot of matches.
Yeah. But...
Yeah. You don't get better when you turn 40. That's a fact.
But I think what we see with these players is the love of the game and how much they enjoy playing it, because you don't see that very often. I mean, Paulo Lorenzi, I think another one, like the Iron Horse, just keeps playing because he loves the game and he's that old. So you see these generations embrace the passion of the sport, which you love to see.
Yeah, Venus isn't it. No doubt that I think that holds true for guys such as like a magical guy. I don't know what to say about all the years she's on tour.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that. That's a lot of years, but it's very interesting. But yeah, no, listen, man. I love tennis because of the international quality work. So I don't really like to be very. I don't care that much. Like if there's no good American.
Fair.
I don't personally.
No,
I don't care.
That's fair. No.
I ain't gonna stop.
Yeah.
Like if McEnroe was playing Lendl, I kind of wanted Lendl.
Listen, it's fine.
No, but only because that's just kind of how it is. Now, watching the Olympics, I want.
Yeah.
However, when Monica won the Olympics, I thought it was just one of the greatest things of all time, right? Won for Puerto Rico, and that was magic. I don't care about and I always found that to be a huge. I always thought the jingoism of the TV telecast,
yeah,
was detrimental to the popularity of this. And I think that they adjusted it where, it used to be like, we got 15 Americans playing today. And now you hear a little less of that on Tennis Channel and ESPN. They still do it, but not to the point where they used to do it.
Yeah,
almost like these other players didn't exist.
Well, because they weren't going to show any other ones. They were just going to focus on them, and if they lost, it doesn't matter. Then they'd be scrambling to find another match that maybe people would enjoy.
Sure, because the thing is you gotta. What happens is perception becomes reality. So if the perception is people only care about Americans in America, or English people only care about English people in England. And I know that's not true. That's bullshit. Because if you go to a tennis club,
yeah,
there's people from all over the world. There might be a Bulgarian guy who wants to see, or, the coolest thing about, Simona Halep plays, whatever, a girl, or when Simona Halep, when all the Romanians come out and play a Czech girl,
yeah,
or a player, or when Garbiñe Muguruza plays, doesn't matter, Sloane Steele, whatever it is, like those are special things, and the cosmopolitan of the sport is what I love it. I love to see a dude from India, come in and play good tennis against a guy from South Africa or whatever, or vice versa. I love the cosmopolitan world. I love all the Chinese players. I don't care about American tennis. The only last thing I'll say about American tennis is, I think Tommy Paul might have special quality that. Yeah.
I honestly do. And
that Tommy Paul have a special quality.
I agree.
Yeah. I heard Jim Kirk say, I haven't asked him about it. I will ask him. But Jim said that Tommy Paul, he tests the highest there is at Lake Nona in all the physical tests.
Really?
That he top athlete there is. Yes.
I completely believe that.
Like that stuff.
Well, Greg, I really appreciate you coming on. I'll leave a link to your podcast down in the description below. This was a lot of fun. I really do appreciate this, and
Yep.
I definitely recommend you guys checking out his podcast because it really does bring that insight to life with tennis players, coaches, anyone within the world of tennis. So, Greg, thank you again for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.
All right, my brother.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.